Sparks, Jason Sparks, Senior Product Manager. Jason Sparks, Jason Sparks, Jason Sparks, Senior Product Manager. Jason Sparks, Jason Sparks, Jason Sparks, Senior Product Manager.
Hi, I'm Jason. And like you, I was an educator. And I remember when I was teaching college, at the end of every term, we would always begin issuing our departmental exams. And we'd build these 100 or 200 question tests that were pages long, and we'd print the tests, and we'd print the bubble sheets, and it was terrible because we'd waste so much paper, and it was so time-consuming. And you know what? I thought we could do better. In fact, I know we could do better. And so today, I work for Instructure as the Senior Product Manager for Assessment. And that includes tools in Canvas like the brand new assessment engine Quizzes.next that you'll learn more about later today and tomorrow, and Outcomes, as well as this amazing new product that I have the privilege of introducing to you, Gauge. Assessment. Wow. What a great topic. Some of us think of assessment as course-based, like assignments, quizzes, portfolios, and projects. And on the other end of the spectrum, others of us think about assessment as those benchmark or higher stakes assessment, those standardized tests. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? And in between, we have other assessment activities. But in every case, we look at the measurement of learning, of student achievement to help guide instruction and help students move towards growth, proficiency, and mastery. In our research, when we were looking at assessment, we talked to a lot of our users in our Canvas family, and we learned a lot of things. So let me ask you a few questions. How many of you think assessment takes time away from instruction? Okay. How many of your students panic the day of testing? And how many of you think assessment can be challenging? And you're absolutely right. And the reality is that when it comes to assessment, data comes from everywhere. It can be disconnected, and you only have a part of the picture. And you can take a step back, and you can collect more data and still not see the whole picture, and that's a problem. And even when you take a further step back, you still may not see everything. We need a complete story, that full understanding of student progress to make decisions on instruction and to empower our students. Assessment should facilitate instruction and reinforce learning. Frequent assessment builds connections to content, and our students perform better and become savvy learners. But you know all of this. You know the effect assessment has on achievement and how hard it is to conduct data-driven instruction in your classroom. Based on our research, we know that 44% of teachers use data to make decisions. But 1 of every 2 teachers struggles to use that data effectively. Isn't that ironic? We struggle to use the tools we thought would help, and that contributes to the incomplete picture. You need real data that represents where teaching and learning really happens. And it's not rocket science. Teachers learn, students learn, teachers assess, and we iterate on the results. All of this should happen in one place, because linking assessment to learning is key. The technology you use should facilitate, not hinder. And it should bring data together so you get that complete picture of the learner. And that is why we built Gauge. There are many things that we can talk about that sets Gauge apart. It's used because it's easy. It informs everyone with actionable data at the right time. But really, we just want to talk about linking assessment to learning. Assessment will lead you nowhere if it doesn't take you from where you are to where you need to be. Let me show you. So I've logged into Canvas as an administrator, and I'm going to launch the Gauge application. So we launch Gauge, and we can see some tests that are pre-populated, and you guys get to play with those tests later. But we're going to build a test together. So we're going to build an assessment. We're going to add some instructions. And here's the beauty of it. When we built Gauge, we built it on top of the Quizzes.next assessment engine because assessment should be equitable. And we wanted to make sure that students didn't face that anxiety when they walked in the classroom and saw the difference between their course-based assessment and the higher stakes assessment that they use in the district. So when students take an assessment, they're already familiar with the way these item types work. Fill in the blank, categorization, hotspot. And there are any students who require some sort of accommodation or assistive technology, they know that it will work. But we're going to build a test, and I'm going to start out by building a stimulus, a piece of content that's used for reference when answering questions. So we're going to add some content here. We'll add a title, some instructions, our source, and then the actual content. So we have our stimulus on one side of the page, and we're going to add questions to the other. And I want to make sure, since we're giving a test to thousands of students potentially, that every student gets a unique form. So I'm going to go to my item bank, and we're going to add a random set of questions. And I'm going to say that we're going to use 5 questions, and each question's worth 1 point apiece. That way, every student sees the stimulus with their associated questions and gets a different assessment form. And then we can add an additional set of questions from this item bank. And we'll just pick 2. And they'll also be worth 1 point apiece. And from here, I can see the organization of my test. And if I really wanted to have everything flow differently, I can simply drag and drop my content, and you'll see that the assessment form just reordered itself. I also have the ability of aligning learning outcomes not only to the assessment, but to individual questions. From here, we can shuffle questions so that way every assessment is randomized. We also have time limits and other key features that will be introduced. But from there, rather than print out those thousands of pages of paper, how about I just deploy it to the entire 3rd grade in my school district? So we're going to add a deployment. We'll give it a name. We'll choose our start date, which will be today. Choose our start time, our end time. And then from there, I can set it to go to all students in the elementary segment of my district, a specific department in my district, a specific campus in my district. So I could even deploy a single assessment to every 3rd grader at a specific campus. How cool is that? So we'll start with the 3rd grade. We can see that this test is going to go to 98 recipients. But the key here, and if you're type A like me, and you're planning the launch of this assessment months in advance, is that let's say it's March, and this is a July assessment. This test is not going to be deployed to the users enrolled in my class in March. It's going to be deployed to the users enrolled in this class at the exact date and time this test is released. The deployment data is as current as you want it to be through our SIS platform integration. So we'll go ahead and deploy this assessment. It's live. And now let me show you the student experience. So as a student, I've logged into Gauge, or Canvas, and we're going to launch the Gauge application. And you can see I have my third grade benchmark there waiting for me. It's ready to go on test day. So I'm going to take my test, you can see my instructions, and now it's time to begin. You can see I have a drag and drop interaction here, but you know what? Not every student is able to use a mouse. And so we built keyboard accessible drag and drop. I think that's pretty cool. A student can also skip through their exam by clicking on the item bar and navigating to any point in the exam that they choose. We're going to go ahead and respond to our test. And then we'll submit. When the student submits their assessment, they get a success confirmation. And then they're taken back to the dashboard and awaiting their results. And the results are released when the district has analyzed the data and chosen to give those results to the students who've sat for that assessment. So let's talk about reporting for a second. How many psychometricians do I have in the house? A few? Okay. So I know that a lot of us could really dork out on data, and that's really cool, but I'm going to save us all the time about talking about what Cronbach alpha is and the point biserial correlation coefficient, but I promise you we got you covered. So that way, when you look at the data and the performance on your assessment, you could answer that question, does my test test what I say it's testing? Because you get the full battery of statistics to understand exam form reliability, like the distribution of scores, the Cronbach alpha, the item level analysis of the difficulty and discrimination indices, the point biserial correlation coefficient, distribution of scores, performance by quintile, all of that great useful data. More importantly, we can talk about, isn't that really cool? More importantly, we could even look at individual performance for every student who sat for this assessment through outcomes mastery. So I can see every student and the outcomes that they've mastered on this assessment. At the global scale, as an administrator, I can even then see the longitudinal performance of my test year over year. And then based upon the data that we've imported into our tool, I can then aggregate or disaggregate results by student and course demographics to look at how we are better serving our students year over year over year. So I can see how I'm best serving my students from, in this case, from 2014 to 2016 by gender and ethnicity in this example. We also want to make sure and see how we serve our individual students. And so we can see our student progress monitor, where I can select a student, select the content over which they've been assessed, and then look at the individual tests they've sat in that content area, and I can look at their performance over time and help make informed decisions on how we target that learner and help intervene in that learner, especially in grade 9 when there may have been some life event. How do we support that user? And speaking of supporting our users, we wanted to make sure that when we built this tool, we accounted for every stakeholder: the student, the parent, the teacher, and the administrator. And so the key report here is how we can empower our students to look at and focus on their goals, set those expectations, and then work towards improvement and achievement in their education. So we provide an individual student performance report for an assessment in friendly language, because I remember when I took my benchmark assessments, I'd get this report that said, congratulations, Jason, you performed in the 93rd percentile in domain competency 7. And I was in 5th grade and I had no idea what that meant. Our reports are student-focused in friendly language so students can understand the learning outcomes they've mastered and the outcomes that they have for opportunity and growth. We wanted to make sure we built a tool that was accessible and friendly for everyone, to alleviate the anxiety, to take the pain out of assessment while still being scalable to meet your needs. In fact, the tool is scalable. Is Broward County here? My friends from Broward County, Florida here? Hey! Thank you to Broward County for being a great design partner in this tool, because we have built this tool to serve the smallest districts with 100 people in the district, to serve the 6th largest school district in the country with over 200,000 students. That's the kind of scalability you'll get with Gauge. Effective assessment can almost increase progress through your curriculum by up to 2 times. Frequent and effective feedback improves student achievement up to 28%. And empowering students with data for self-monitoring and the setting of goals improves achievement up to 43%. Assessment. The active recall has a true impact on learning. In fact, effective assessment significantly impacts and improves teaching and learning. Join me tonight at 5 o'clock in Castle Peak to learn more about the Quizzes.Next assessment engine. Or if you can't make it tonight, you can also come tomorrow to Shivano Peak at 4:20 in the afternoon for the critical mission briefing. And let's unlock and solve that mystery of Quizzes.Next together. Until then, join me in the new Gauge Lounge right outside these doors. Let's talk assessment and let's change the world, one question at a time. Thank you.